This was outside the home office of Republican Congressman Cliff Bentz in Oregon this week. His constituents left him little notes. They called them Cliff Notes. Get it? Because his name is Cliff. They stuck their Cliff Notes on a cardboard cutout of their congressman. They say things like, support federal workers, protect your people, the Constitution is worth fighting for. Also, we want a town hall, don't hide out east. Well, today, Republican Congressman Cliff Bentz of Oregon did hold a town hall in his home district. The Baker City Herald newspaper reporting that more than 200 people showed up, which is, quote, much larger than has been typical over the past decade when other members of Congress have held town halls. Now, for context here, this is not blue Oregon. This is a county that Donald Trump won by 73%. He got 73% of the vote there. And yet the local paper, the Baker City Herald, reports, quote, audience members made it clear from their statements and from their reactions to both questions and Bentz's answers that they do not support the administration. According to that reporting, the majority of questions today were about Trump's executive orders and about Elon Musk and about firing government workers. Today was also another national day of protests. Big protests in Boston and in New York City and in Chicago and in Washington, D.C. People who work for the federal government and people who support them, they're regular fellow Americans rallying to try to stop the gutting of federal programs. There were more than a dozen protests today, specifically for university faculty and researchers who work on healthcare researchers and faculty members. This was Center City, Philadelphia. Hundreds of faculty and researchers from UPenn and from Temple University and Drexel. It was the same thing at Rutgers University in New Jersey. And in Chicago, researchers and faculty from Northwestern and DePaul and the University of Chicago. In D.C., outside the Department of Health and Human Services, scientists protested, scientists whose work is funded by the federal government. And, you know, a lot of these protests are happening in D.C. and in other big cities. But because of the kind of leverage that we've been talking about tonight and on previous shows, I do think it's really worth watching what's happening in local press around the country, too, how they're covering from a local perspective what's going on in the government right now. Take, for example, the Des Moines Register. Look at this headline from yesterday, quote, Elon Musk's indiscriminate carnage brings needless misery to these Iowans. Here's the Oil City News in Wyoming, quote, Valentine's Day massacre, uncounted throng of Wyomingites fired by Trump administration. Also this headline out of Kansas City, quote, Kansas City doesn't have enough jobs available for all the federal workers getting laid off. And quote, Trump jobs purge hits Michigan. Quote, why did the president fire you, mommy? We talked last night about how this has been playing in Virginia, where the Republican governor there is Glenn Youngkin. He has just been tying himself into a pretzel, trying both to defend what Trump is doing and say how much he supports Trump, while his state proportionally has more federal workers and federal contracts than anywhere else in the country. Youngkin promises help for federal workers, but defends Trump job cuts. It's impossible to do both of those things at once. And the local press in Virginia is well aware of that. They are not fooled. Local press in Virginia, based on what they've been running lately, seems to be totally aware of what Trump is doing and what damage it means for their state. This, for example, was the editorial page in the Virginia Pilot newspaper today. Quote, as a winter storm expected to bring substantial snowfall approaches, communities throughout the region are making preparations, largely thanks to the detailed forecasting done by the meteorologists at the National Weather Service. That's another invaluable service President Donald Trump and Elon Musk hope to dismantle. Purposeless destruction that would make the public less informed and drive up costs to families and businesses. Having accurate, timely forecasts helps power companies prepare for outages and manage demand. It empowers governments to plan for disruptions, and it helps families prepare themselves and their homes for the possibility of severe weather, a key component of public safety. We know to prepare for near-record snowfall this week because the experienced and devoted public servants at the National Weather Service told us to. If Trump and Musk have their way, it would be the last such warning. And again, don't take it from me. This is the editorial page in a local paper in Virginia, the Virginia Pilot. In Virginia, where so many people work for federal agencies, including the National Weather Service, The threat to the economy and the relative inaction of the Republican governor there have A, made people mad, B, ruined a lot of lives already, and C, have also caused Democrats in the state of Virginia to step into the void left by these Republican politicians who can't bring themselves to respond because they're so afraid of offending Donald Trump, no matter what he does to their state. Democrats in the Virginia legislature have just formed an emergency committee to help address the devastating consequences of Trump's actions for the people of Virginia. They are stepping into the void. This is an election year in Virginia. The Virginia House Speaker joins us next. Stay with us.